I just want to make maybe one more statement about the will.
Yeah.
We need to, understand the power of the will. Like, most people don't even honour their own will. When I say don't honour their own will, they don't go, okay, this is what I currently believe, but I can will a change through the release of the emotional impediment as to why I believe this thing, and will that I accept the truth about this particular thing. I can go through this process. It doesn't mean that you can sit there and go, I'm going to release the error now, it's all released. Oh, I'm going to accept the truth now, it's all gone, without any emotional process, because you have to have an emotional process in order to release the impediment, the resistance to the absorption of a new truth. But you can use your will to do such a thing. Most people don't. They sort of go, oh, okay, no worries, yeah, I could change, but I'm not too, I'm very laissez-faire usually, they don't care very much about change, and they don't really see it's a problem of what they believe, many people initially, so there's no exercise of a will there. Or they believe that releasing the error is going to be of major trauma to them, so they don't want to release the error, or whatever other ways they are exercising their will. And we're usually exercising our will very negatively, even to the point where we say we're not even responsible for what's in us. We go, okay, my parents caused, or my society caused this emotion that's in me, they should have to get rid of it. No, it's in you. Only you, through your will now, can get rid of it.
Yeah.
That's the only person now who is capable of going through the emotional release process that will release this particular problem, this resistance to the absorption of new truth. So you're going to have to do it, whether you like it or not. And it doesn't matter how many people created it, you now have to let it go through a process that you must go through yourself without anybody helping you and without anybody assisting you. Now, when I say without anybody helping and assisting, obviously there are people around who understand this process here and in the spirit world who can help you understand the process, but they can't make you feel it. Only you can choose to feel it. And if you don't choose to feel it, no change is possible. No change. So you'll be here 20 years' time going, why haven't I progressed? Well, because you have used your will to not progress. And this is the biggest problem with people's relationship with God. They have used their will to resist it without understanding how their will is exercised. And I feel that's a big issue.
Yeah, I agree. So resistance is really under the control of our will. And you're talking about change is only possible through the release of resistance.
Yes.
As adults. We'll talk about kids a bit later, maybe a bit more.
Yeah.
But what I find interesting is that I see many people engaged in a... You talked about people who are very lackadaisical about change, people who don't really care about change. But then I see on the planet there are some people who are involved in a desire to change themselves or their environment or have a career or, these things. But we're not engaged, we're engaging our will while trying to deny the soul.
Which is like trying to change while your soul is not wanting to change. That's pretty hard. In fact, it's impossible. You can't do it.
Yeah.
And that's why hardly anybody ever changes. Even when they think they're using their will.
Yeah.
Hardly anybody changes because they're not really using their will. They're not feeling what's inside as resistance. They're not choosing to feel that resistance. They want to feel the good thing. See, not much of the resistance when it comes to error feels good. It all feels hurtful, shameful, hard, angry, fearful. It's all yucky emotions that the average person on earth goes, I don't want to feel any of those emotions. I only want to feel good, happy, joyful, whatever. I don't want to feel sad or afraid or angry. And see, resistance is very rarely sad. It's mostly angry. It's mostly angry, fearful and shameful and those kind of emotions. And they are the emotions that the majority of people on the planet want to avoid at all costs. People will murder to avoid those emotions, generally. And as a result, there's very little change, even though they might try to say to themselves, I'm going to be a force for good in the world. you can't be a force for good in the world until you're ready to change your own soul and you understand how it works. And unless you're willing to let go of what's error inside of your own soul, how can you ever be a force for good in the world? Because what is in your own soul as error will exercise its dominance. So give up the whole concept of trying to be a force for good in the world and try to be a force that fuels its own resistance. And you'll make some progress, And I feel that's what the majority of us need to do. And it's the expression, if you can see resistance as the expression of the soul's will, that's really, really important. Like, do you understand what I mean by that?
Yeah, you're just saying so many things. I keep having to write down things I want to go back to that you said.
Well, maybe we better go back to some of the things first, and then we'll go forward.
No, go with what you were saying, and I'll just write a note.
Okay, so if you think about it, using your soul to resist something is an expression of your will, just like using your soul to desire something is an expression of your will.
Yep.
Right? So if we can see using resistance as an expression of our will, then we know that if we're stagnant, that we're using our will to be stagnant. And then we could ask ourselves the question, well, why am I using my will that way? And the only real logical answer can be, because I'm afraid to actually progress. Mm-hmm. Right? And then we could ask ourselves, well, what are the feelings of a fear?
What's the false beliefs I have about that? Yeah.
Yeah, but also I need to do one even better thing. The fear is a feeling that causes us to express our will in resistance to truth. So the only way we're going to actually progress is to feel the fear and not talk about it anymore. We need to feel it. So we can go through the intellectual exercise of what is this fear about, and so forth. We might even know what it's about intellectually, but unless we feel it, no progression is going to happen. So I know at some point I'm going to have to get from I see that I'm afraid of that into I am afraid of that and I feel that, and I'm feeling it and I'm crying because I'm so afraid of it and so forth. I'm going to have to get to that point to release the resistance. Mm-hmm. And I can intellectually do these gymnastics saying, oh yeah, I know that. No, you don't know anything yet until you've felt the resistance go, until you feel it leave you, which is through an emotional experience that's going to be quite traumatic. Anything associated with shame, guilt, fear, anger are all going to be traumatic emotional experiences, painful to experience. And we can't, and this is what I said last time we got together, I think, this addiction to avoid pain is a major problem.
Big problem.
A big problem on the planet.
Yeah.
We need to have an addiction to experiencing everything. That would be great, including experiencing pain.
Yeah. Then it wouldn't be an addiction, though.
Of course, it wouldn't be an addiction because we'd be experiencing everything. Yeah. But it'd be wonderful if we all changed our viewpoint about pain. See, what we most of the time is we want to blame everything else for our pain. We don't want to feel it. We want other people to make it go away. That's bad, We want to feel our pain. That's going to be the thing that makes us progress. Yep. Now, you had a whole heap of questions for those things. Have they all gone now?
Well, I think it's sort of, I think it all comes together. There's little things I'd like to clarify in some of the things you said, but I don't think that, I feel that you've got the message across. Yeah. And there's other questions I'm trying to formulate about.
If that's the case, can I just say a bit more about the expression of will? Is that all right?
Please, continue.
Well, most people I notice who are in stagnation, which is actually demonstrating they're in resistance, right? Most people I notice, they always come up and they say, I don't understand why I'm in resistance. I don't understand why I'm stagnant. And to me, this smacks of irresponsibility. Mm-hmm. Because if you understand how the soul works, you would go, instead of going that, you'd say, I am stagnant because I am choosing to be. Right?
And this is where the understanding of our will, which is what God really wants us to understand in this earth incarnation.
Or in our entire life, in fact.
Yeah, but this earth incarnation, I feel, is very purposeful to help us really see the expression of our will in action and to become sensitive to that. And when we are saying, oh, I don't know why, when we're really missing that first very crucial lesson that we have a will, aren't we?
Not only that crucial lesson, we're missing this crucial lesson, that we are responsible for the exercise of our will.
Sorry, that's what I meant, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so we have a will, we need to understand that. But we also need to understand that we, and like me, I, and only I, are responsible for the exercise of my own will. No one else can do it for me. No one, not even God, will do it for me. So if I am stagnant, the only reason why I am stagnant is because of something I am choosing to do. This is an expression, resistance is an expression of my will. So when I am in resistance, I have a responsibility to find out why I have chosen to be in resistance. And it is a choice. There is a soul-based emotional choice going on inside of me that causes me to wish to remain resistant. And I need to take responsibility and say that I have created it and I need to release it if I want to change. And it doesn't matter how many teachers I have, and it doesn't matter how many people I have helping me, and it doesn't matter how many times I talk about it, and it doesn't matter how many times I hear something about it, unless I am willing to get to the emotion inside of me that causes this resistance, and unless I am willing to take responsibility to feel that emotion, I will not change. And it doesn't matter how many people try to help me, it doesn't matter how long they try to help me, it doesn't matter what magical things they can do to help me, I will not change until I go through that emotional experience. And that is the pain and suffering that's mentioned in the Paget messages that every spirit who has ever arrived in the spirit world has to go through in order to start embracing the full use of their will. There is always pain and suffering associated with the unlawful exercise of our own will. And I say unlawful from the point of view of God's laws. Every time we exercise our will unlawfully, out of harmony with God's loving laws, we are going to have to go through a painful emotional experience now or later. Doesn't matter when, it's going to have to happen. And we will not change on that issue until it happens, until we actually go through that painful emotional experience. And this is where I feel people need to understand responsibility. They are responsible for where they are right now. They are responsible for their own resistance. No one else can help them through their own resistance if they are unwilling to do it. They need to exercise their will.
I feel that it would be great to have a discussion about will with you at some time, because I know for myself, when we first moved in together, and I see this around many, many people that I know and meet, which is why I bring it up, I didn't have an understanding of just how my will was being exercised in every way, like in every emotion, action, projection, all these things are all an expression of my will. And much of it I regarded as just normal. And automatic. I hadn't ever considered how my will was being exercised. It was just in automatic. And I think perhaps that's why I feel so passionate about this lesson of the will, because I see that most people operate in automatic surrounding their will, and that's why they get to places where they go, oh, I don't know why I'm like this, because they really, it's not been inculcated into them, as you often say, that they have a will that they are responsible for. And I didn't want to be responsible because I didn't like being faced with the
truth about your will.
The truth about how I was using my will and the effects of how I was using my will.
Yes.
And because I'd never had much feedback, because I'd always been in sort of situations where people had agreement with me about how the will should be exercised around certain issues, areas, actions, situations. I'd never been confronted. And beginning to travel and things, that helped me, going to other countries, recognising more. But I just feel most people operate in a state of complete unawareness of the majority, not completely unaware that they have a will, but the majority or the multitude of ways in which a will is expressed in a day, and how that can be in harmony with love and truth or in harmony with error. I feel that most people, we are literally not raised to have that awareness.
No.
But we need it if we're going to deal with these things.
Yes, but also, while most people will understand that they make decisions intellectually, very few people actually understand that most of their decisions are made before they make the intellectual decision.
Yes.
Most of their decisions are made emotionally. They are set inside of their emotional condition, and their will is to either to retain that emotional condition rather than examine it honestly is quite strong. Like, you look at the majority of people who resist any discussion we have with them, the majority of times they are actively using their will to not examine themselves. They want to have no self-examination. All they want is for somebody to tell them, you're right. Now, if we were all right, we'd all be at one with God. We're not all right. And we need to understand that we're not. And the only way that we're going to become right is by releasing the error, the wrong that's inside. And that is an emotional process. And you can try that intellectually till, for the next 50 years, there'll be barely any change whatsoever. And the only change you will have made in that 50 years is the time you felt an emotion.
Yeah, yeah. This is where, isn't it, there can be, it almost feels like there's layers of resistance.
Yep.
Because when you're speaking with someone who doesn't even want to see the emotional impediments, the errors within them that create their resistance, they don't even want to see, they even have resistance to the awareness that there is
But even
error.
that is caused by an emotion.
It is.
Yeah, even like, this is what I'm saying, every piece of resistance, even the intellectual denial that I have a problem, is caused by a feeling inside of me of why I want to deny. There's always something driven by the emotion. So even the thought, I want to deny this, which comes instantly, usually before the person formulates the thought from a logical process, they're already denying it before they even think about what they're doing most of the time. That came from the entire inside emotional condition. Oh, I want to deny this. I want to get away from this pain that I'm going to have to feel if I go down that road. I want to deny that. And this is where we're using our will to deny our pain. And as soon as you do that, you're going to create error. You're going to create resistance. You're going to create resistance to truth, but you're also going to create error through addictive processes.
Yeah.
You're going to automatically have an addiction now where you're denying that pain. Every single pain you deny in yourself, an addiction will be created to correct it. And so for the majority of people, they've got thousands of pieces of pain that they're trying to deny in themselves from their childhood experience, and as a result they have thousands of addictions that they need to, emotional, most of them, that they're trying to suppress this pain with. And it's an automatic process driven by the soul's will. And we need to understand that it's the expression of the will.
Yeah.
So you can't go, oh, I didn't know I was doing that. No, your soul is exercising the will, and God's not going to let you off the hook for that. God's not going to say, oh, you say you didn't know that you wanted to murder somebody, or you say you didn't know you wanted to rape somebody, or you say you didn't know you wanted to yell and scream at your children and bash them. You say you didn't know that you wanted to have men look after you. Are you saying you didn't know these things? Because the reality is the majority of us know these things and deny them. That's the reality. We use our will to deny. We use our will to cover it all over. We use our will to create a facade. We use our will to not progress. So we can't then say that, why am I not progressing? It must be somebody else's fault. Maybe the teacher's at fault. Maybe he taught me the wrong thing or whatever. No, God's a great teacher. God's trying to teach you every day. And if you're in resistance to God's teaching, it's because you're using your will to be so. That's the only reason why it's happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
So these are important things for people to understand, I feel.
Yeah. So what I was wanting to ask you about before, about the layers of resistance, is simply about this thing that I find when I'm talking to people sometimes, and I feel it inside of myself as well, is like you can have a huge emotional resistance even to seeing
That you're
yourself.
resistive.
Yeah, that you have resistance within you.
Yes.
And speaking to that person about issues of truth is very, very difficult because they don't want to see anything. Whereas then you can talk to someone who has worked through that emotion enough to allow the idea that they do have errors within them that are resisting truth. And that conversation is much easier.
Yes.
Because we don't have this emotional error inside of us that is saying, there's nothing to see and I don't want to see.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of emotions that drive that, obviously. For example, there's the emotion of, don't tell me I've got something wrong with me because it means that I must be a terrible person,
Yeah, lots of...
there's so many emotions that drive these thoughts of resistance. And these emotional resistances need to be felt in order to be released. So if you have something come up where you automatically think somebody thinks you're a terrible person, well, it's probably that you have a feeling deep down that you're a terrible person that you need to feel.
Mm-hmm.
So feel it. Once you feel it and release that, then every conversation won't be tainted with the thought that maybe you're a terrible person. And that'll be fantastic for you. You'll be able to think with more clarity. You'll be able to act like you're not a terrible person all the time. You'll be able to be less suspicious about people's comments to you. Instead of believing they always think you're terrible, you'll think there might be some other motive as to why they're saying what they're saying, and so forth.
Yeah.
And, unless you release that emotion, this emotion is going to taint every interaction in every part, every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
And you see this happening every day with people. You go, there's another emotion that's tainting every aspect of your life. There's another one tainting every aspect of your life. And you're resistant to feeling that emotion. And as a result, you've got to look further. What's the emotion causing you to be resistive to feeling the emotion? And there's another emotion usually there.
Yeah.
And these are usually things like shame. Feelings of fear that we don't want to feel. Fear that we're a bad person. Fear that there's something intrinsically wrong with us and things like that. These are all emotions that cause us to be very, very resistive to other emotions. It's sort of like if you've got an emotion that causes you to be resistive to feeling other emotions,
Yes.
can you see that if you always skip over that emotion to feel that emotion, this emotion is going to slow down your progression, like in major ways. You're better off feeling that emotion. That emotion that wants you to be resistive to hearing feedback, the emotion that wants you to be resistive to feeling other emotions of sadness, guilt, shame, and other things. You're better off going through what's this feeling, and if this feeling is rage, then feel it. If don't take it out on other people, feel it. Go into your bedroom, go into a private place, feel it, express it, get it out of you, connect with it. Then it'll drop away,
Yeah.
and when it drops away, it's like then. It's free sailing into the next emotion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we got that they're under the control of our will.
Okay, so I think I've made that plain.
So I'll
And
scrap
that
it.
we are responsible. God created us to be self-responsible beings. And every time we go, I don't know why this is happening, we're not being a self-responsible being. We're not exercising our will to find out.
Yeah.
God wants us to exercise our will to find out everything. Everything about the universe, everything about ourselves. And we need to be self-responsible beings to do that. So one of the lessons we need to learn is I need to become a self-responsible being where I acknowledge that if I am not progressing, it's because I am exercising my will to do so. Is that enough eyes and minds for everybody?
Yeah. I don't know, but it probably needs saying.